The SNP would like you to believe that in reality, they're doing an okay job, that they're running Scotland at least better than a Westminster government ever could. But a look at Scotland's education, finance, and even some of the recent changes they made to the benefit system would certainly bring that claim into very, very much questionable status. That's for sure. And of course, now with Nicola Sturgeon leaving the stage in a shocked resignation, we'll get to that a bit later, the SNP has been fighting an incredibly vicious leadership battle. And by the looks of it, tomorrow, the SNP are about to elect a Christian fundamentalist to lead their party, which has led their sometimes Green coalition partners to now say if she is elected, they will not go into coalition with them, nor will they respect the agreement they signed with them about supporting them in any potential independence referendum debate or any such further actions, which plunges the SNP into massive, massive quandaries, especially with the light brought to light during this whole leadership campaign of how many members have actually left the party. Overall, the SNP is in an absolute, mess at the moment. There is no denying that that is the state that the party is in. However, I feel that very often there is a bit left out about this. The real reason why Nicola Sturgeon left her post in such a dramatic fashion, no one saw it coming. But of course, the week before, of course, if you were paying close attention, the police announced that Operation Branchforth was kicking into high gear. So, what is Operation Branchforth? And the reason why I think this is the real reason why Nicola Sturgeon resigned in such a shocking way, well, we'll tell you a bit more about Operation Branchforth in a moment. But before we get into talking about that, please do remember to click on that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, buy me a coffee. And of course, thank you very much to all those people who do help and support the channel. Now, I want to make this very, very clear to people. I really do not care about Scottish independence. I really don't. But this is a case where I feel that, especially to a lot of UK readers, and even some cases, I think even to our to my fans in Scotland, I think that this really is the reason why Nicola Sturgeon left in such a shocking fashion, as when it's often announced. When anyone talks about Nicola Sturgeon's sort of sudden resignation, it was a shock resignation. No one saw it coming. But there are some very serious questions in and around sort of the finances of the SNP. She was the leader of the party at this time. Her husband is the at least was the chief executive of the party. He resigned recently about the whole scandal about the membership numbers of the SNP. There are some serious questions to be asked about the finances of the SNP. And like it or not, you should be asking these questions, whether you are pro-independence or not, because the core function of the SNP, at least has been for a number of years now, is that they are a true trustworthy party. They are better than the Tories in the SNP, and Nicola Sturgeon has styled herself to be a bastion of truth and honesty against what was the sleaze and distruthfulness, I suppose, of Boris Johnson. And here's the thing. When people ask, would I sort of make a similar video questioning sort of Labour's, if something was very similar to happen to Labour, then yes, absolutely. I'd be livid. I would absolutely be livid that my party was in such a financial state. And don't get me wrong, Labour is currently going through its own financial issues. That is true. I've made a video about it a couple of months ago now, but I've made a video about it. I've talked about it. I've addressed it. But I think this is why Nicola Sturgeon really quit. I think this Operation Branchforth would, I think, is going to engulf her. And I think she knew that if it was, as the Scottish police had described it at the time, that the operation was kicking into high gear, that she would be involved somehow. There is a very clear reason why she refuses to answer the question of does her and her husband have a joint bank account? So we'll quickly go into this piece explaining what Operation Branchforth is and why it was started and what the police are sort of looking into. So off we go to have a look at this. Over to the Daily Record. Again, let's use a Scottish source, and again, a pro, I believe, Scottish independence, because I want to make sure that people do not accuse me of being biased, even though I know people will. Something they will accuse me of being anti-independence, whatever. I really don't care about Scottish independence. If you want Scottish independence, go for it, my friends. But hey, beware, the grass maybe not be as green as you think on the other side. Just a warning, guys. I went through an entire referendum warning people about Brexit and, of course, the consequences of voting Brexit. And now, of course, here we are having to deal with the consequences of Brexit. I feel, and I've said several times, that I don't think that SNP supporters or people who are sort of pro-independence like to really talk about what the consequences, at least the financial and economic state of an independent Scotland would be. Again, cue the two reports about what a independent economic Scotland would be. One from NatWest, and I think one from the University of Edinburgh, I believe, that doesn't paint a very rosy picture. But anyway, on to this. So, the police are investigating fraud allegations at the SNP and are probing high-value transactions, including vehicle purchases made by the party. Senior figures have been quizzed by detectives about the items and spending, and also gifts dating back to 2018 as part of an investigation codenamed Operation Branchform. The Crown prosecutors are now directing the probe, which was triggered by at least 19 criminal complaints that £600,000 of donations were ring-fenced to fund to ring-fenced a referendum fund which had been misappropriated. We reveal now that the former Treasurer Douglas Chapman has spoken to as a witness by officers in the days before Nicola Sturgeon announced her shock resignation. She and her husband, former SNP Chief Executive Paul Murrell, said they have yet to be interviewed, although I highly suspect that they will at some point. There's no way that both Sturgeon and her husband will not be investigated in this case. And as I said, I think this is why she resigned. I really do. I think this is the real reason. It wasn't a shock resignation, as we said. Whenever people talk about her resignation, it was a shock resignation. I don't think it was a shock resignation at all. I think it has everything to do with this police investigation. So a source has said that the police are particularly interested in vehicle purchases and other items of capital expenditure. Some of the people spoken to have been surprised to find questioning focused on this rather than donations. That the last account failed for the last year of the party shows that over £80,000 of tangible assets of motor vehicles. An SNP spokesperson said last night that they declined to comment on the vehicles owned by the party. He said, "We will cooperate fully with the police investigation and we will not make further comment." Murrell resigned earlier this month after taking responsibility of the lies told to the Sunday Mail over the membership figures, plunging his party into crisis amid a leadership battle. The SNP's communication chief also resigned after our exclusive revealing that over 30,000 members had left and were flatly denied, despite being 100% true. The Police of Scotland fraud probe does centre on the £600,000 of funds raised in 2017 and 19, which were to be ring-fenced for a referendum campaign. However, SNP counts show that less than £100,000 were in the bank at the end of 2019, despite the fact a referendum had not been held. This row has sparked several resignations of several ministers of the party's ruling National Executive Committee back in 2021. So that is essentially it. That is the state. That is what Operation Branchforth is. And I've said it very cleanly and clearly. I think Sturgeon and her husband have a lot to answer for. They were in positions of authority. This money just does not disappear, especially if it has been ring fenced. And I think ultimately Sturgeon knows she might be dragged into this. I think she knows the amount of scandal this would sort of bring to the party. I think that's why she resigned. And remember, she'd been setting herself up as this true bastion of truth, responsibility, and non-corrupt politician that she'd set herself up to in comparison to sort of Boris Johnson, who was sleazy, corrupt. But this whole investigation tarnishes that entire figure. And I think ultimately she knew that leaving was probably for the best of her party. But of course, given the current sort of state the S&P is in, um, who knows? And especially when this investigation ends, who knows what this investigation will find. But these allegations are serious, and I think we should take them into a larger picture. I think that's why she left. This was not shocking. She knew this investigation would eventually come to her and start asking her questions, as well as her husband. And as we've said before, there is a reason why Nicola Sturgeon refuses to answer the question, does she and her husband have a, well, joint bank account? And like it or not, that's the reality. I'd be livid being, again, a Labour Party member, knowing that this amount of money had disappeared or where this money had been spent. This is something I think anyone who is a member of the S&P should be highly concerned about and angry at, and be at least expecting whoever takes over from Nicola Sturgeon to be upfront and honest and telling people what has happened to that money. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, we'll see you all next time.